Welcome back to the program. Let's keep rolling. After my entire adult life, Democrats saying big corporations don't pay their fair share in taxes. Now, all of a sudden, when we start tariffing foreign companies and foreign production, the Democrats go, oh my God, that's a tax. That's going to affect people at the lowest end of the income scale. Well, hold on. Donald Trump is not trying to drive revenue into the government. He's trying to get better trade deals. But now the man who thinks he's going to be president because we just need more of him, Gavin Newsom, is going to sue Trump over tariffs?
Today, I announced a lawsuit on behalf of the state of California suing the Trump administration. California is the largest manufacturing state in our union, one of the largest trading partners around the globe. No state will be impacted more than the state of California as it relates to the unilateral authority that's being asserted by the Trump administration to impose the largest tax increase in modern American history.
This is not a 10th Amendment issue. This is clearly a federal power here to deal with foreign entities and foreign policy. Joining me now to discuss these tariffs is the Director of Research at the Government Accountability Institute, Seamus Bruner. Thank you so much for joining us. So what standing does Gavin Newsom think he has to question the president's foreign policy?
Yeah, it's great to be with you. Gavin Newsom proving once again why he is Beijing's favorite governor. He has been the most pro-China governor in this country, going actually back to when he was mayor of San Francisco, and he flung open the Golden Gates to Chinese communists and spies. And now he's got no standing to do this. He's grandstanding, as he usually does. And this is just an attack on Trump's agenda, which is putting American workers first.
You know, look, again, as a conservative, as a reader of von Mises and Hazlitt and Ayn Rand and Milton Friedman, I don't like tariffs. But I also don't like our trading partners treating us unfairly, especially the NATO ones that don't actually contribute 2% of their GDP and put high wall tariffs on our products like Germany does, 30% on automobiles. If this is what it takes, Trump is trying to say to the world, you're done ripping us off, and we're not going to tolerate high unemployment in our country because you won't let our products made by our workers into your marketplace.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. The tariffs are a negotiating tool that brings all of these countries to the table, says you're done ripping us off. Trump has actually been very generous. I mean, he says reciprocal tariffs, but they're not all reciprocal. In fact, we're giving a much lower rate than a lot of countries do toward us. And no one has ripped us off more than China. And it's time to bring these American jobs back home. So, tariffing China, it's brought them to the table. I mean, they're trying to play tough, but Trump is acting tougher.
Well, look, they can ill afford to face a tariff wall with the United States. They are having a housing market crisis in their country. They have an unemployment crisis that, I mean, if we had 20% unemployment for workers 16 to 24, we would be losing our collective minds if our young people couldn't get jobs. They have that. The only thing that's keeping them alive is their trade imbalance with us and perhaps Europe. If they're sitting on manufactured goods that they can't sell, their economy could collapse.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, they were basically an agrarian society. Their GDP was in the, low 100 billions before we started exporting, going back to the 70s. I mean, they were a very poor country. They had nothing. And so the fact that they have become somehow a rival to the United States over the past 50 years shows that this trade imbalance has been going on way too long, and they rely totally on exports to the United States. And so, yeah, they better come to the table, because if all of the industrial base that left America for China starts coming back, whether it's nearshoring or reshoring back to the United States, China's done.
Look, I am under no illusion that fake plastic dog crap is not going to be made in the USA, right? We're not saying everything is going to be made in the USA, but we're saying there needs to be some. When did the Democrats oppose the concept? They're always talking about fair share, fair share, fair share. They claim to be the party of labor, but they seem to be taking on the line that it's better that we continue to trade jobs for cheap stuff. Now, look, cheap stuff is good. There are some things that are not going to be made in the USA, but we shouldn't be putting millions of people out of work just to get the cheap stuff. We're asking for open markets, fair, free, and reciprocal trade, and that our workers are treated fairly. That's not really a big ask, except for the fact we've become addicted to Chinese manufacturing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I would prefer the key things like automobiles and the big industry stuff be made in the United States. But you're absolutely right. The cheap plastic crap, it doesn't, it's not going to be made in America, but it doesn't mean it has to be made in China. There's a whole lot of other countries between here and there that don't treat us like an enemy, that don't flood our country with fentanyl. And so China can still take a major hit, even if some of this cheap industry that will never be made in the United States, these cheap goods, get made in other places, whether Latin America or other Asian countries.
Yeah, and if anything there, you could solve the immigration problem, right? If manufacturers say, all right, we've had enough of China. They're not reliable. They steal intellectual property. They don't compensate us back for it. We can't sue them because the Chinese Communist Party owns everything. Maybe Javier Milei's got some people who'd like a job. Maybe there are people in Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Panama that would like a job that they never would have had that fake plastic dog crap factory not relocated there. We should absolutely, if they're not, like you said, nearshoring, if they're not going to onshore, let's encourage them to nearshore and keep it at least in our hemisphere.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think the political left could get on board with that, right? It's a lot less climate change, a lot less carbon shipping it all the way halfway around the world if it's in our hemisphere. So I don't see why they would protest that. It's still cheap. It's not the tax that they claim it is on the people buying the cheaper goods. And it's right close to home. It's a lot less carbon they have to use.
And I will say, I'll get on my soapbox for about 20 seconds. I like to buy stuff made in the USA. I will always add made in the USA to a search because I know when I buy that product, the other side of that is somebody that can pay their mortgage. And the other side of that is somebody that can afford groceries. The other side of that is a fellow American family that can afford to live. And I take pride in that. I'll give you 20 seconds.
I completely agree with you. I try to buy as much made in the USA stuff as possible. Sometimes it's not possible, but even better than that, buy it in your local community. I was actually stunned last Christmas. I went to a farmer's market that had all these goods, and I thought they were going to be so much more expensive. They actually were competitive with junk on Amazon, and I got locally made stuff.
All right, I got to leave it there. Seamus, thanks for your time tonight.